Friends, last evening, as the beautiful orange Karating sun was setting, my grandmother took her final breath. Now, the footage I'm about to show you is the final video I took of her and her home. I've got a few other videos out there of her that many of them will remain in private family archives. But I'm deciding to release the final video that I took of her that is still one that I can share publicly. After 97 years on this beautiful earth, Nya Asiri Nyanya Hera Skulogada transitioned to be with her maker. There is really a deep pain of sadness knowing that never again will we ever spend time with her, at least not as models. But even deeper is our sense of gratitude for her life, the awesome memories, and the incredible opportunity to grow up in the shadows of a woman so grandiose in her achievements. In this video, I'm actually walking with the kids. I'm going to walk them around the home. I want to tell them a little bit about our history, because a big part of our history actually begins in this home here, where for me, as old as I think I was 3 or 4, I remember being raised in a grass-thatched house, which was made of dirt. And that's the only thing my parents owned. And that was my father's Simba. I'll show you the area in a few minutes. That's all we had. That was probably 40 plus years ago. So today I just decided to walk with the kids, take a few videos around, clips around. But that's my grandmother sitting there. Towards the end of her life, she loved just taking her seat, putting it out here, and just watching people walk by, looking around, and just not saying much. So that's what she's done for the last couple of years. Although I would say the last 2 years have been much tougher. She's gone downhill much quicker than we expected. And I would say, as a person who spends a lot of time outside Kenya, one of the saddest things about traveling back to diaspora is that you know that there's a high possibility that some of the people that you're leaving may not be there when you return. So the other one was the main house, and this was the kitchen. So I just want to show the kids what went down here. So this was a kitchen slash a corral for keeping like small animals. One of my aunts actually used to sleep where I'm pointing down there. She was unmarried, and that meant something. In the Luo community, if you're unmarried and still living at home, life was different. So she would sleep there, but this was also the cooking area. So I'm just explaining to the kids how it was fun just spending time here. I was about their age, and this home was so full of life. And it just makes me sad to see how, at the end of it, life has really changed. So please join me in this video as I show you my grandmother's home, where we all started, where my journey begins, and I'll share with you a little bit about her in the next couple of minutes. So please stick around with me. I would say that with just a third grade education, she went on to raise about 8 kids, and that is just the number of those who survived till adulthood. She had many more kids. Most of them died in childhood. But she went and raised 8 grown kids, multiple grandkids, and even more great-grandkids. In fact, she outlived my grandfather by more than 40 years. My grandfather died in 1978. So it's been some time since. And indeed, she has also gone on to outlive almost all of our kids except the 4. The firstborn is still alive. The secondborn is passed. The thirdborn is my father. There's one other girl that is still alive, and her lastborn. So there's 4 of them still left. Most of our kids are all gone, and she's lived all through these years, bearing one kid after another. And if there's one thing that I've seen in life that can be really tough, is when a parent has to bury their own child. My grandmother has buried a lot of kids, and it took a toll on her. It really took a toll on her. So this is basically her living room, the traditional living room, multiple sets of seats, and all these things really bring very warm memories. And so I'm just walking around showing the kids what life was like for us 40 plus years ago in this particular place. So I'm just really glad to have shared this earth with her, to have lived at a time in history with her towering over us, protecting us, leading us in the absence of our grandfather and many of our uncles and aunties that passed on. But she's been with us all my life. I do not know life without her. It'll be a different experience. This week will be really different because this is the first time that we are around without her presence. I've never known life without her. Unfortunately, I think it's really hard to express really the raw power of a long life and the impact she's had on earth. Unfortunately, she will never know just how much her progeny moved on to impact people across the globe. Many of us grandkids and her kids as well, educators, some are medics, others are government officials, business people, and more. We are spread all over the place, and we live in all kinds of places, from California to Kenya to many other places across the globe. My grandmother will never know just how much the candle her father lit in Nyahera back in 1928, how that candle went on to illuminate the world. It is really easy to forget that this version of events that I'm describing is extremely fleeting. We are all here on earth for a few short years. Sometimes 97 years sounds like a lot. But now looking back, the last bit of it that I spent with her felt like just zoomed by. See, like this living room area. There used to be like a lamp in the middle here, because of course we never had electricity in the entire village growing up as a kid. So all we had was just kerosene lamps, which for me as a kid was just fantastic. It was just fun here. But I remember being scared moving from this main house to the kitchen. And so if I was sent to go to the kitchen, I would just dash and run into the kitchen because I was afraid that something would happen in between here. But that's being a child. Being a child. And then to the left where I'm heading, that's where we had our big, they call it cool. I think it's a corral for keeping cows. And my grandmother would milk right behind me, right there. And our job as kids mostly was to go bring the small animals. And she would be milking and we were sitting around her. It was just really fun times. 40 plus years. But I know they've lived in this home much longer. They used to live in a different place, and so my grandfather moved and built his home here approximately 60 years ago. Before then, they lived in their home, and so this is his home and her together as well. So they built lots of memories. So that area where I'm pointing, that is where my grandmother used to milk her cows, and we loved it. She used to make for us something we call adila, which my cousins in Rifa they call mursek. Fantastic memories. And my grandfather is actually buried right here. This tree that you're looking at is planted right on top of my grandfather's grave. And it is possible this is where my grandmother is coming to rest. Now behind me, and I'm going to walk with the kids, that's where we had my father's grass-thatched simba. So I'm explaining to the kids and they're asking me all kinds of questions. But, these are things that are hard to put in words. You'd have to live it to know exactly what I'm talking about. So in our few years on earth, we only have a few years to awaken, reproduce, and then prepare for the journey back to our Maker. So this hill right here where I'm standing with our kids is where my father had his Simba, the grass-thatched house I was talking about. This is where we were raised. This is where we were born. And I remember the days my mother and her friends, her sisters would go bring cow dung and soil from the river to Muono and all that. It was fun, and they wouldn't let us come in because we would mess up the Muono part. Yeah, so all of these areas were covered by little huts and Simbas where my uncles used to live. And it was fantastic because all the kids would come and eat in the same house every night, especially the house where there was rice and beans. Rice and beans was the top food for all of us kids. So I would say that in general, my journey as a seventh grandchild really pales in comparison to the incredible life that Phoebe Nyakia Ogado lived. Friends, there are many things you cannot really put in words. You cannot convey through film. It's hard to share the smells, the feelings, the thoughts, the awesome experience of being loved by this woman for such a long time. But as they say, everything with a beginning must come to an end, and this is it for my grandmother. Many of us returnees, current and future, have older parents, grandparents, and at least parents who are aging. And as our folks inch closer to their final destination and perhaps a date with their Maker, I hope we all face this subject not with dread, but with a sense of gratitude. I'm actually demonstrating to the kids the kind of games we used to play here. And they're finding it funny, thinking that that's not even real. Oh, and by the way, you see those trees back there? Those flowers were amazing. Each of us had one selected that we quote unquote owned. So the middle one was mine, and we shared with some of my cousins. This place was so much fun as kids. But like I said, everything with the beginning must come to an end. So as we inch closer to the end, I hope we face the subject of death with gratitude. Having lived a life more worthy, having fallen from grace more rarely, walking on earth more carefully, taking the time to rest more peacefully, and rewarding more bountifully whenever possible, and eventually dying more happily. It's interesting, my other boy, he is a little bit scared of cows. Because again, these are city kids, and so cows are fairly foreign to them. For us, seeing cows meant you go after them and you run. With the city kids, it's a different story. So he feels that he needs to be away from the cow lest something happens. I'm explaining to them that, growing up as kids, part of our job, again, was to take care of animals. When we were younger, they would give us small animals like rams and goats and things like that. But as we grew older, we were allowed to take the bigger animals. And so, yes, like I said, this home has a ton of memories that I will hold on to. So right there, as you see walking, that is the final footage of my grandmother moving. So this video is special, and so I thank you for sticking along with me. I thank you for hanging on and walking with me. But this is the final footage of my grandmother walking. There is no other after this. I didn't capture a whole lot, but I wanted to make sure that I got bits and pieces of her alive before I traveled back to California. But yes, on the background there is my grandmother, who is now passed. So, folks, there's a whole lot I would say, but today is probably not the day to say a whole lot more. So I'll just share a little bit, and that'll be it for the day. Again, if I didn't mention earlier, my grandmother actually was the last of her generation and the longest living member of her family. Really, all of her siblings are gone. Of course, her parents died a long time ago. She was actually raised by her brother, who was a chief in Nyahera. It's just unfortunate that she didn't get the opportunity to be educated as everybody else. I remember her telling us that she would be the one staying at home and doing the cleaning and all that while people went to school. Had a big passion for school, she just never had the opportunity. And sometimes I wonder how life would have turned out had she gone past third grade. Maybe she might have not even ended up in karate, because my grandfather too, wasn't too educated, but he ended up being a police officer. So again, I know that in our family, nobody has lived as long as she has, and we are glad for the time we spent with her. Farewell, Nyasiri, Nyanyahera, Nyamin Chief. The Excalibur has finally sunk beneath the waves. Until next time, family, thank you again for sticking by, and I will see you in the next video. Good night. Bye.